Chapter 13, Far East Adventures. In June of 1988, Diana and I took a trip to the Orient. The following are excerpts from my diary of the trip. June 2nd, 1988, stayed at the Marriott Hotel at DIA, had going-away dinner with Jim, Rach, Pete, Henry, and Kathy, Jim's first wife. Both Dee Dee, my nickname for Diana, and I had an afternoon dip in the pool. Up at 6 a.m. on June 2nd, flight departed at 8 a.m., flight to LA, first leg, was uneventful and pleasant, good food and drink. Flight from LA to Tokyo, Narita, was long. 2 movies, 2 meals, snacks, and constant daylight. Slept about 3 hours. Dee Dee didn't sleep much more. Arrived Narita Airport at about 3 p.m. Japanese were very efficient. Baggage and customs were fast, money changing, no hassle. An airport limo to the Akasaka Prince Hotel, comfortable. Arrived at hotel at 6 p.m., checked in and confirmed half rate both for Tokyo and for Kyoto. Took bath and decided to nap from about 7 p.m. for an hour or so. Slept until after midnight and then on and off for the rest of the night until 7 a.m. Both Dee Dee and I awoke very well rested. First full day, weather sunny and warm, had breakfast at the coffee shop in the hotel and signed up for the dynastic all-day tour of Tokyo. The tour proved to be very interesting. We visited the following sites: Tokyo Tower, Asakusa Kannon Temple, Shinzanso Garden Restaurant for lunch, the Imperial East Garden, Meiji Shrine. The view from the Tokyo Tower was worthwhile as we were able to see majestic Mount Fuji quite clearly. We were a bit rushed by our tour guide, so we couldn't spend time in the schlock shops. Asakusa Temple was a lovely experience. It is Tokyo's oldest and most famous Buddhist temple. Leading up to the temple grounds was an avenue flanked by shopping stalls. We spent some time roaming about looking at the wares of these shops. One of the flight stewardesses on the plane had told us that Japanese fly swatters make good gifts. We looked but didn't see any. After leaving the temple grounds, we drove, via our tour bus, through heavy traffic to the Chinatown restaurant. This was an elegant Japanese version of Martin's West. An opulent-looking, modern, multi-floored structure served as the housing for several weddings being held concurrently on the beautiful terraced gardens and in the many halls. Our guide informed us that 53 weddings would be held by day's end. We witnessed several wedding participants in their beautiful kimonos and traditional costumes. The meal we had was excellent, with 6 people per table, a la Benihana style. Food consisted of grilled veal, pork, steak, chicken, vegetables, and steamed rice and miso soup. After lunch, we walked around the beautiful gardens with its bridges and waterfalls. We got lost in the building and were the last ones back to the tour bus, which didn't set too well with our punctilious and dour tour guide. We next visited the magnificent Imperial Gardens and then went to the Tasaki Pearl Gallery, where we witnessed an instructive presentation on how man-made pearls are made by inserting a round piece of shell into the sex organs of a 3-year-old oyster and leaving it there for at least 3 years. We next went to the Meiji Jingu Shinto Shrine, the largest shrine of Japan's native religion. We were particularly impressed with the magnificent grounds and the size of the shrine itself. We got back to the hotel around 5 p.m. and rested and slept until almost 8:15 p.m. We then went out and walked in the Akasaka section near the hotel and found a small noodle restaurant where no one spoke English. We pointed to what we wanted and had a delicious meal. We got back to the hotel around 11 and planned our trip to visit Kamakura tomorrow. Second full day, sunny and warm, June 5th. Up at 7:30 a.m. and finished breakfast by 8:30 a.m. Took the subway from Akasaka Amitsuke to Shimbashi, where we switched to the railroad and took the Yokosuka line for 55 minutes to Kamakura. We were met at the railroad station by 3 students who offered to be our guides to enable them to practice their English. We had read that the Japanese government sanctioned the student organization doing this, so we decided to let them guide us. One spoke fair English, the chief guide spoke poorly, and the third student, a reporter, spoke even less. With their guidance, we visited the following landmarks: Heisei Kannon Temple, the Great Buddha, Daibutsu, Hachiman-gu Shrine, Hokokuji Temple. We walked from the railroad station to the Heisei Kannon Temple. It is a magnificent complex dating back to the 700s and up to the late 1300s. The main feature of the 8-building temple complex is the 11-faced image of Kannon, the largest wooden sculpture in Japan. No pictures were allowed. After our visit to the Heisei Kannon Temple, we hiked to the most dramatic site, the Great Buddha, over 730 years old. Much to our surprise, we were permitted inside the Great Buddha statue, much the same as tourists in the U.S. go inside the Statue of Liberty. From the outside, the statue was dignified and awe-inspiring. We then walked in the hot sun to the Hawimangu Shrine, where Diana purchased a fortune, which was written entirely in Japanese. Her guide, Tom, tried to translate it into English for her, but had great difficulty. Diana threatened good-naturedly to flunk him in English if he failed to complete the translation. He eventually did, and Diana's fortune turned out okay. We concluded our tour of Kamakura with a visit to Hokokuji Temple. This temple is surrounded by a magnificent bamboo forest, in the midst of which we had green tea. We returned to the railroad station shortly after 3 p.m. and bid our 3 guides sayonara. Diana promised to send them Washington, D.C. t-shirts. She did when we returned to D.C. We boarded the train for Tokyo and retraced our steps to arrive back at the hotel before 5. After a rest, shower, and bath, we ventured back out into the Akasaka district for supper. We came upon a fish restaurant and entered. A menu was presented depicting a dinner for 2 featuring a red bream fish. We pointed, they nodded, and an Epicurean adventure began. Firstly, a live fish, presumably a red bream, was netted from a pool in the center of the restaurant. It was dumped into a large open wicker basket and presented flapping and flipping to us for our approval. We nodded. They smiled, and the living, flipping fish vanished into the kitchen. 3 to 5 minutes later, a large round dish about 2 feet in diameter piled with ice appeared. Mounted on this crushed ice pile on spikes was the fish we'd just seen and selected. A ramp-like structure, composed of a leaf on the ice, led up to the fish. On this leaf, sashimi was presented, the flesh cut from the side of the spiked fish, the head, tail, and bleeding body, minus the central part of its flesh, still twitched and eyed us as we ate its sashimi. The once bright, shiny eyes turned slowly dull and lost their luster as their owner's twitching subsided. At about the same time, we emptied the ramp of its contents. The waitress removed the fish platter. This was not the last we were to see of our friend Twitch. 6 additional courses were served using the remaining parts of Twitch: tempura skin, miso fish soup, rice with shrimp potage-type chowder. The Twitch came back to the table, course by course and piece by piece, until at last the head, eyes, and all were devoured, or, in our case, discarded. The meal was tasty, filling, and an experience we'll not soon forget. We walked back to the hotel and sacked out by 10:30. 3rd full day, sunny and warm. June 6th, up at 5:30 a.m. and prepared for trip to Kyoto. Ate breakfast Ion Coffee Shop and exchanged pleasantries with 2 Australian couples. 6:30 a.m., checked out of the hotel and taxied to the railroad station, where we boarded our 7:24 bullet train for Kyoto. We arrived at Kyoto Station at 10:10 a.m., schlepped our luggage, 4 bags, 2 travel kits, and Diana's purse, over to the subway, took the subway to the end of the line, and taxied to the hotel, where we arrived before 11 a.m. The hotel was magnificent. We were greeted royally, and a welcoming tea was brought to our room. We then took the hotel shuttle bus to Kyoto Railroad Station, where we walked to meet up with a tour at the New Miyako Hotel. We had time to spare before the tour started, so we went back to the railroad station and ate a boxed lunch. The tour began at 1:40. We visited the following sites: Sanju Sanjendo Hall, Heian Shrine, Kiyomiao Temple. The Sanju Sanjendo Temple consisted of a long building with multiple tiered rows of life-size figures of Kannon, 1,000 of them in all, each one with a different face and different features. Each figure had multiple arms, 40, each holding a symbol representative of a human trait. and above each life-size head were 11 smaller heads representing the human conditions. That is sadness, happiness, etc. In a word, astounding. Because this temple was a national holy place, we had to remove our shoes before entering. Next, we went to the Heian Temple and saw dramatic vermilion-colored edifices with a beautiful garden containing ponds, carp, stepping stones, and cool pathways. After the beauty of the Heian Shrine located in the heart of the city, we drove to the mountain temple of Kiyomizu. The approach to this temple was up a steep, narrow street flanked by many shops selling all kinds of items, but chiefly pottery. The street is nicknamed Teapot or Teacup Street. After walking the gamut of the Teacup Street, we ascended the stairs leading to the temple. The Kiyomizu Temple is set in the side of a forested mountain and affords one a fantastic view of the city of Kyoto. A gorgeously dramatic three-tiered vermilion pagoda accents the temple grounds. At the base of the temple grounds, mountain water runs to a spring, which is said to be holy and charmed, and provide those who drink it with wisdom. Several school children lined up to drink the water. Elsewhere on the grounds was the infamous Love Rock. Children of all ages sought out this site. We returned from the tour to the new Miyako Hotel and just missed our shuttle bus back to our hotel, so we went back into the RR station, ate dinner, and subwayed and taxied our way back to our hotel, where we arrived at 7:30 p.m. exhausted from a long, long day. I took a hot bath and hit the sack before 9 p.m. Dee Dee did likewise, and we slept until after 8 the following morning. Fourth full day, June 7th. Sunny and very warm. We decided to do things on our own today. Ate an American breakfast in the hotel and then took a taxi to the Kinkakuji Golden Temple, or Golden Pavilion, a Zen Buddhist temple. It was perhaps the most beautiful of all the temples we'd seen, set in a reflecting pond and surrounded by trees and mountain pathways. Gardeners were constantly pruning trees, moss, and cleaning the walkways of fallen leaves. Words are inadequate to capture its splendor, awe, and serenity. The Golden Pavilion seemed to capture the essence of what Kyoto was and is all about. After our visit to Kinkakuji, we taxied to the 7-story Kyoto Craft Center for some serious shopping. We spent a few hours going from floor to floor, looking at everything from pearls, cloisonne, damascene, kimonos, happy coats, and yakutas to dolls, toys, etc. We ended up buying some yakutas, coats, and kimonos. We dashed back to the railroad station but failed to find our way to the shuttle. This turned out to be fortuitous as we happened upon a huge, beautiful shopping mall in the lower level of the station. We window shopped and came upon an ice cream parlor/restaurant. By pointing to the plastic models of the parlor's offerings, menu, we made ourselves understood, and Dee Dee had a fruit and ice cream dish while I had pasta and coffee. Several high school girls, all skinny as a rail, wolfed down huge sundaes with large helpings of ice cream, bananas, toppings, and more. Mystery. How do they all stay so thin? Around 3 p.m., we subwayed back toward the hotel and then taxied from the subway terminus. We're now real experts on transportation systems of Kyoto. Back at the hotel, we visited the gift shop, and Diana bought a beautiful damascene black 24-karat gold butterfly necklace. We napped for a while and wrote postcards, and then took the hotel shuttle bus to Gion Corner. The bus was packed with Japanese businessmen attending a 3M conference at the hotel. They were all going out to eat at a 200-year-old restaurant not far from our destination at Gion Corner. They were in high spirits, laughing and joking all the way into town. Some of them were kimono manufacturers learning the virtues of 3M's Scotch Guard. Diana and I arrived near Gion Corner and, after checking where and when to buy tickets, decided to look for a nearby restaurant as it was around 7 p.m., and we had until 8:30 p.m. before the show we were going to see began. We found a restaurant which we felt would provide a good transition meal from Japan to Hong Kong, which was our next day's destination. We ordered Kyoto box dinners, bento boxes, which were compartmentalized boxes with different servings in its own separate compartment. The meal was served quickly, and the quality was acceptable. It was still only 7:45, so on a whim, we decided to go into a pachinko parlor. The place was hopping with slot machines and pachinkos running. I bought 500 yen, about $4 worth of change, and Diana and I sat down at adjoining machines and started to play. After about 10 minutes, I was out of money, but Diana was on a roll. She could do nothing wrong as the coins mounted in her collection tray. Lights started flashing, bells went off, and the pachinko parlor manager came over and helped her play all the options. We both were now teamed up at Diana's machine. I pressed the start button. Diana and the manager fed in coins. Diana pushed the select buttons. Her luck held. The coins piled up. Finally, at 8:05 p.m., the machine rattled to a halt and the words, "Game's over," flashed. We took Diana's winnings to the counter and were given several wrapped sticks bound by a rubber band and were told, in sign language, to follow a designated fellow. We followed him for a few blocks and then he led us to a seedy-looking side street where we walked up to what looked like an old-fashioned speakeasy. He knocked on a window, like a horse racing betting window, which opened a crack. A hand reached out and took Diana's package of sticks. A moment later, the hand reappeared and reached out to give Diana her winnings of about 5,900 yen. Not bad for a 500 yen investment and 20 minutes of time. Diana and I were in great spirits as we headed back for the Gion Corner Show. At the Gion Corner Show, we were treated to the following traditional Japanese activities: tea ceremony, koto music, flower arrangement, traditional imperial palace music and dance, kyogen, comedy of ski dealers, miyako and geisha, and bunraku puppets. 2 volunteers were needed for the tea ceremony, so I was one, and an Israeli was the other. The entire show was only an hour, but gave us a look at several aspects of the traditional Japanese art forms. We taxied back to the hotel and packed in readiness for our departure tomorrow for Hong Kong. 5th full day, fair and hot, June 8th, travel day. Up at 5:30 a.m. for a continental breakfast in our hotel room, check out, and taxi to Kyoto Railroad Station. Lugged luggage and boarded a bullet train to Shinkansen for Tokyo at 8:50 a.m. We arrived in Tokyo at 11 a.m. and caught an airport limo to Narita Airport. We arrived at Narita at about 1:15 p.m. and rested in the first-class lounge. The plane left a few minutes late. The flight was uneventful. The food on the flight was good and plentiful. I had a Doers on the rocks and slept. Diana read. We arrived in Hong Kong at 7:30 p.m. and at the Hotel Hong Kong at about 9 p.m. We checked in and received a message that the tour would pick us up in the hotel lobby at 8:50 a.m. Walked around the hotel and familiarized ourselves with the territory. We went to bed around 11 p.m. 6th, full day, Hong Kong, June 9th. Weather sunny and hot. This is where the accounts of the trip to the Far East end. Perhaps the rest of the journal will be added at some point.